Los Angeles, California, 1987. Musso and Frank Grill on Hollywood Boulevard, 7 in the evening. The oldest restaurant in Hollywood. The kind of place where legends had been eating since 1919. Where Chaplin used to sit. Where Bogart proposed to Bacall. Where deals were made and careers were launched over martinis and steaks. Muhammad Ali was sitting in a booth near the back, with his wife Lonnie, trying to have a quiet dinner, trying to be normal, which was impossible when you were Muhammad Ali. Even now, even with the Parkinson's making his hands shake, making his movements slow, making the simple act of eating dinner a challenge that required focus and patience. The tremors were bad tonight. His hand shook as he tried to cut his steak, the fork rattling against the plate, a sound that drew attention, that made people stare, that made Ali feel exposed in a way that 12 rounds with Joe Frazier never had. In the ring, his body had been perfect, responsive, under his control. Now it betrayed him with every movement. Lonnie reached over, put her hand on his. "Let me help. I can do it," Ali said quietly, his voice softer than it used to be. The Parkinson's affected that too, the volume, the projection, everything. "I know you can, but you don't have to do everything alone." She cut his steak for him. Ali watched her do it, grateful, embarrassed, both at once. This was his life now, needing help with things that used to be automatic, things he'd never thought about, things that made him feel less like a champion and more like a burden. At a table across the restaurant, Clint Eastwood was having dinner with a producer, discussing a new film project. Eastwood had noticed Ali when he came in. Hard not to notice Muhammad Ali even if you weren't trying. Even diminished by disease, there was still something about him. A presence, a weight, the kind of gravity that only comes from being truly great at something. Eastwood had watched Ali's career, respected it, admired the courage it took to stand up to the government, to sacrifice everything for principle. Eastwood didn't agree with all of Ali's politics, but he understood what it meant to be willing to lose everything for what you believed. That was rare. That mattered. He saw Lonnie cutting Ali's steak, saw the tremor in Ali's hands, saw the struggle. And something in Eastwood's chest tightened. This was Muhammad Ali, the man who'd floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee, reduced to needing help cutting his dinner. The waiter approached Ali's table, young guy, maybe 25, impatient energy, the kind of server who wanted to turn tables quickly, get good tips, move on. He'd been watching Ali struggle with the meal, watching the slow eating, the tremors, the difficulty. "Sir, are you going to need much longer? We have people waiting for tables." Ali looked up. "I'm sorry, I'm eating as fast as I can." "Well, if you have a medical condition that makes eating difficult, maybe your restaurant isn't the best place for dinner." Lonnie's face went hard. "Excuse me?" The waiter doubled down. "I'm just saying, we have other customers, and watching him struggle like this is making people uncomfortable. Maybe next time order takeout." The restaurant went quiet. Other diners had heard, were watching, waiting to see what would happen. Ali's face showed nothing. Years of being insulted, years of racism, years of being told he didn't belong. He'd learned to control his reaction, to not give people the satisfaction. But inside, something broke a little more. Another piece of dignity chipped away. Lonnie started to stand up. "Get your manager, right now." Before the waiter could respond, before the manager could be called, Clint Eastwood was standing. He heard everything, had watched this pump kid humiliate a legend, and something in Eastwood snapped. He walked over to Ali's table, the whole restaurant watching. Eastwood had that presence too, different from Ali's, but just as undeniable. When Clint Eastwood moved, you noticed. "Muhammad," Eastwood said, "mind if I join you?" Ali looked up, surprised. "Clint Eastwood, sure." Please. Eastwood sat down in the booth next to Ali, turned to the waiter. You got something to say about how fast my friend eats? The waiter's face went pale. Mr. Eastwood, I didn't mean... You didn't mean to insult Muhammad Ali? To suggest he doesn't belong in a restaurant? To humiliate a man who's dealing with a disease he didn't ask for? What exactly didn't you mean? I was just trying to... To what? Do your job? Your job is to serve people, not to judge them, not to rush them, not to make them feel like they're not welcome. The waiter stammered. I'm sorry, I didn't know who he was. Eastwood's eyes went cold, the same look he had in the Westerns, the look that said this conversation was over. You shouldn't need to know who he is to treat him with respect. Every person who walks through that door deserves dignity. Whether they're Muhammad Ali, or a janitor, or a kid working their first job, you don't get to decide who matters based on how fast they eat or how much their hands shake. The manager had arrived now, sensing the situation. Mr. Eastwood, I apologize. This is completely unacceptable. Yeah, it is. Eastwood turned to Ali. Has this happened before? People treating you different because of the Parkinson's? Ali nodded. Sometimes. People don't understand. They think I'm drunk, or slow, or they get impatient. It's okay. I'm used to it. It's not okay, and you shouldn't have to be used to it. Eastwood turned back to the manager. I want this table comped. I want this waiter fired, and I want you to train your staff on how to treat people with disabilities. He's got more courage in his shaking hand than most people have in their entire body, and he deserves better than this. The manager nodded rapidly. Of course, absolutely. Again, I'm so sorry. The waiter was escorted away, the manager apologizing profusely, offering free meals, offering anything. Eastwood waved him off. Just leave us alone. We're trying to have dinner. When the manager left, Eastwood turned to Ali. I'm sorry that happened. You didn't do it. You don't have to apologize. Yeah, but I'm sorry anyway. Sorry that people are ignorant. Sorry that disease has to come with indignity on top of everything else. Lonnie spoke up. Thank you for standing up. Most people just stare or pretend not to notice. Nobody stands up. Eastwood shrugged. Muhammad stood up his whole life for civil rights, for his faith, against the war, against corruption in boxing. The least someone can do is stand up for him when he needs it. They sat there for a moment. The three of them. The restaurant slowly returning to normal conversation. The drama over. But something had shifted. Ali spoke quietly. It's hard. This disease. Not the shaking. Not the slow movements. That's just physical. It's the way people look at me, like I'm less than I was, like the disease is all they see. They don't see the person, just the symptoms. Eastwood nodded. I get that. Different context, but I get it. People see the characters I play, the tough guy, the hero, the man with no name. They don't see the person, the guy who has doubts, who gets scared, who struggles. They just see the image. It's different though, Ali said. You chose the image. I didn't choose this. You're right, it is different, but the feeling is the same. Being reduced to one thing, one perception, one story, when the truth is always more complicated. They talked for the next hour, about image and reality, about what it costs to be famous, about dignity and disease, about legacy. Eastwood was 57, Ali was 45. Both men past their primes in their respective fields, both dealing with what it meant to be legends who were also just human. Eastwood told Ali about his father, who died of a heart attack at 64, how Clint had watched him slow down, struggle, how people had treated him different when he couldn't work anymore. He went from being a man to being a problem. People lost patience, lost respect, like his value was only in what he could produce. When he couldn't produce anymore, he became invisible, became a burden. That stuck with me, shaped how I see people, how I treat people. Ali shared what it was like to go from being the most famous athlete in the world to being a man who struggled to button his shirt. The hardest part isn't the physical stuff, it's the mental. Knowing my mind is sharp, but my body won't cooperate. Having things to say, but not being able to project my voice. Wanting to move fast, but being trapped in slow motion. It's like being a prisoner in my own body. But you're still in there, Eastwood said. That's what matters. The disease affects your body. It doesn't affect who you are. Your courage, your principles, your impact, that's still there. That's still you. Some days it's hard to remember that. Some days the disease feels like it's winning, like it's taking everything. It's not taking everything. It's taking your body. But your spirit, your legacy, what you stood for, what you mean to people, that's permanent. That can't be taken by disease or time or anything else. Lonnie watched this conversation. Watch these two Hollywood legends talking like regular people, like friends, like men who understood struggle, even if the struggles were different. The meal ended. Eastwood paid for everything despite the manager's protests. As they were leaving, Eastwood pulled Ali aside. "Can I tell you something? When you refused the draft, when you gave up your title, when you stood alone against the government, I was young, just starting in Hollywood, and I watched you do that, and I thought, that's what courage looks like. Not the fake courage in movies, real courage, the kind that costs you something, the kind that hurts, and it changed how I thought about my own career, my own choices, my own responsibility to stand for something." Ali was surprised. "I didn't know that. Why would you? We'd never met, but I've carried it with me. And tonight, when I saw that kid treat you like you were nothing, I couldn't just sit there, because you're not nothing. You're everything that matters. Courage, principle, dignity. And if people can't see that because your hands shake, that's their problem, not yours." They shook hands, the tremor evident in Ali's grip, but neither man mentioned it. It didn't matter. Over the next few years, that story spread through Hollywood. About the night, Clint Eastwood stood up for Muhammad Ali. About what he said to the waiter. About the hour-long conversation. It became legend. The kind of story people told to illustrate what real respect looks like, what standing up for someone means. Directors would tell the story to actors. Be like Clint in that restaurant. See the person, not the disease. Producers would reference it in meetings about representation and disability. Remember what Eastwood said. Everyone deserves dignity. Eastwood and Ali became friends after that night. Not close friends, but connected. They'd see each other at events, at charity functions, always made time to talk, always with that understanding between them. The understanding that came from that night, from that moment when one legend defended another. When Ali lit the Olympic torch in 1996 in Atlanta, his hands shaking as he held the flame, Eastwood was watching on television, tears in his eyes, calling people to watch. This is what it looks like to not let disease define you, to still show up, to still matter. When Ali died in 2016, Eastwood released a statement. Short, simple, classic Clint. Muhammad Ali was the toughest man I ever met. Not because of what he did in the ring, because of how he lived with dignity when his body failed him. That's strength. That's what I'll remember. And when people asked about the restaurant story, about that night in 1987, Eastwood would smile. That wasn't me being heroic. That was me doing the bare minimum, standing up when someone needed standing up for. Ali spent his whole life standing up, for others, for principles, for what was right. Standing up for him once was the least anyone could do. The lesson is simple but profound. Dignity isn't something you earn through accomplishment. It's something you deserve by being human. Disease doesn't diminish that. Age doesn't erase it. Struggle doesn't cancel it. And when you see someone's dignity being attacked, you stand up, you speak out, you remind the world that every person matters, regardless of how fast they eat, or how much their hands shake, or how different they seem from who they used to be. Clint Eastwood understood that. Muhammad Ali lived it. And on one night in Hollywood, they showed the world what respect looks like when it's real, when it costs something, when it matters. If this story moved you, share it with someone who judges too quickly. Subscribe for more stories about defending dignity. And remember, the measure of a person isn't in their strength. It's in how they treat people who can't fight back, how they stand up when someone needs defending, how they see the human being behind the symptoms. Clint Eastwood saw that, and Hollywood has been telling the story ever since.